Well, Bronwyn Reid is a small business owner and entrepreneur who specialises in helping small businesses grow. Bronwyn is an author. She's the author of Small Company, Big Business and is set to launch her new book, Small Company, Big Crisis. And she joins me now. Bronwyn, thank you so much for your time today.
Good morning, Ash. I'm very happy to be here.
So first of all, what inspired you to write Small Company, Big Crisis?
Small Company Big Crisis actually started as a keynote presentation way back in 2018. And at the time it was called Rabbit in the Headlights. I was talking to a bunch of small business owners about how it feels when a crisis comes to visit you. You can feel like that rabbit in the headlights. You're frozen, scared, don't know what to do, don't know which way to run. And then, of course, we've had the big crisis of COVID come along. So while I'd started to write the book back in 2018, we got a whole heap more lessons. Basically, I've spent a lifetime going through these ups and downs and crises in business, and also even with my family's businesses. Way back when I was a kid, we had agribusiness operations. So what I came to realise is that crisis or difficulties in a business are constant. You know, it's like a council bus. The next one's just going to be along soon. We just don't exactly know when. So I thought, well, if I could give some of the time and money that I've wasted learning some of these lessons and give them back to other business owners, that might be a good thing. What
were some of the key learnings?
The number one thing is, Ash, that the next crisis will be along. It's a bit disingenuous of us to treat the bad times as abnormal. You know, we treat that as the not normal times, and then we treat the good times as the normal. But it's actually not like that. And I know this sounds very pessimistic, but it's the truth. And yet we still act surprised when another crisis comes along. So that's the number one lesson. Number two is to actually do something to prepare yourself. In the book, I've got a list of 7 things that you can do to prepare your business for the next inevitable downturn or crisis or whatever it is that happens. The other third lesson is that crises come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. They're not just global pandemics. They're not just share market busts. What happens if you have a death in your family? You know, I've lost a brother, so I know exactly how disruptive a death in the family can be to a family business. What happens if your 2 business partners divorce? What happens if an employee commits fraud? So business crises can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes.
Now, did any of those lessons change at all when the pandemic became such a big issue for a lot of businesses?
No, I don't think so. I certainly didn't have global pandemic on my risk list, but and we've seen this with UK businesses. The UK businesses that were really well prepared for Brexit. They'd put some good thought in what they were going to do, what impact it was going to have on their business. They are the business that have actually done better during the coronavirus pandemic, because even though it was a different risk, they had already done some preparation so they could adapt their adaptation strategies, if you like.
So what are some of the steps that businesses can take, I guess, to plan and almost recover post-crisis?
Okay, well, I have a list of 7 preparation, 10 things to do when the crisis comes along, and then 10 to help you recover. So the most important one is have a cash reserve. Now, I know that's not always easy, but there are ways that you can do that. You need to have your risk management plan in place, and I give a very simple 8-step process to putting a basic risk management plan in place for your small business. As I said, most of us, I don't know, we must be just eternally optimistic. You know, it's never going to happen to me, so we never put these risk management plans into place. You need to make sure that all of your systems are in place, you know, all of your management systems, that will help you respond when things go bad. You need to be in touch with your expert advisors, your accountant, your lawyer. You need to make sure that all your insurance contracts are up to date. Do you have the right insurance? Do you have enough of it? You need to check on your contracts, all the agreements that you're part of. You need to check on them in line with your risk management plan. Like, what do your employment contracts say? If you have to cut hours or worse, put people off. So there's a whole list of things that a small business can and should do to be ready.
Now, as a small business owner, it can often be overwhelming. Is there one that you think should take priority or a good place for them to start?
Definitely the thinking through a risk management plan. Now, small business will often say, oh no, that's too difficult, it's too hard, it's too complex. It's actually not. A simple risk management plan that you have thought through with your team can be the difference between life and death for a small business, particularly when the crisis comes. So if you've got that risk management plan in place, you've identified the hazards, can you avoid them? How much impact will they have on your business? Can you do something to reduce the likelihood of it happening? Can you do something to reduce the impact that it will have in your business? All of those things, not difficult, but as I said, difference between life and death for a small business.
What is your hope for small businesses post the pandemic?
Actually, you picked my brain there, Ash. I actually tacked on to the end of the book. Well, not exactly tacked on, but I added a last section right at the end, which is my hopeful piece. What are the lessons that we can take away from what we've learned during COVID-19 to make our business scene better, make our communities better, make our societies better? So in there, I talk a lot about business ethics, how we seem to have lost our connection with ethics in some places. I talk about leaving behind some of the influences that come upon our political leaders. You know, who's actually running the country? I do. As I said, there's 10 things that I go through that are my little hope. And I've had a lot of feedback from my social connections as well. What are the things that we can do as small businesses, and what do we hope for beyond COVID-19?
So we've spoken a lot about crisis prevention, but what about growth as well for businesses beyond just ensuring against those risks? So what are some of your tips for businesses actually wanting to expand and grow?
Okay. Again, if you go back to those businesses that had their risk management plans in place, it might not have been for a pandemic, but they have put the thought in. Now, these are the businesses that have made changes. I'm not going to use the P word because we're all absolutely sick of it. But these are the ones that have made changes in their business because they've thought it through. And these are the ones that are going to be first out of the curve, first out of the upturn. And there will be an upturn. There's always an upturn. So that's probably the main thing is being prepared. But then you had the Minister for Trade on just before talking about changes in supply chains. Now, we've got a really big opportunity here in Australia. When COVID-19 hit, the world was clanging with the sound of breaking supply chains. And a lot of big businesses that would not engage companies like mine to supply because we're too small, we're too risky. But when COVID-19 hit, they realised where the real risk was. And the real risk was in having these long supply chains with another big company in another country. So I think there's actually a real opportunity for small businesses to join into some of these big corporate supply chains and government supply chains now that they've realised the risk. And we actually don't pose a risk at all.
Well, Bronwyn, thank you so much for your time and for your insight today. And also congratulations on the new book. It's very exciting.
Thank you. I'll be sure to send you a copy.